Yo, 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 yo. What is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder. And today, we got potentially a spicy one for you. I got three things we're going to touch on. Number one, I'm going to give you my initial thoughts on war pets because I honestly haven't done anything with them yet. And I'll tell you why. Number two, we're going to be showing you the questionnaire we did, collecting feedback from members of the community on their thoughts about war pets. Number three, then I'm going to give you some conclusive thoughts at the very end, maybe a pro tip here or there, we'll see. So I want to preface this all by saying, if you are interested in wanting to join in and contribute, participate in polls that we do, which bear in mind, we will make this public. There will be a link to it in the description, pinned comment down below. All you got to do is join the Discord, link to that again in the description, pinned comment, react to the Call of Dragons reaction roll, and then get access to that section, and then just look out for a ping. I do plan to do a lot more polls, and I love getting community feedback. I love giving shout outs to the people who take time to give responses and to read their posts and comments, because I think it's really important when we look at assessing and analyzing something new that's coming to the game or something that's changed, been removed, and then we look at kind of where is it, and bear in mind, it's been a while. So it wasn't like we came out with this poll, for example, day 2 after War Pets were released. It's been a minute. So I am really excited to read the feedback once we get to that section. Now, let's get to number 1. For me, War Pets, in short, the reason I haven't really messed around with them yet is first for a few reasons. One, if something does not appear to me at face value to be enticing, to be engaging, to be something that I just find that I find necessary or relevant, right, at that stage in a game's life, it's a little difficult for me to find motivation in wanting to participate in that feature. It's not to say that the feature is god-awful. It's not to say that it's the best thing in the world. It's to say, and I've spoken about this publicly a couple times, my view on war pets generally, and this isn't against anyone who creates a feature, especially the developers, it's just I view it as not being needed at this moment in time. That's just my flat view on it. If you look at the game as a whole, if I had to weigh on one hand, right, one hand is, do we introduce war pets or do we focus more on improving the quality of life in the game? Because there's quite a few things that could be done there that, in my opinion, should be taking more precedence over something like a War Pets feature. It's not to say that War Pets is bad. I do like the idea on paper. But when it comes to, do I feel it's the most important thing or it's the biggest thing to, if you're thinking about how are we going to increase engagement in the game, how are we going to increase longevity in the game, how are we going to keep player retention, if I had to weigh War Pets versus quality of life is just, again, wins wholeheartedly to me. And I'll give you some examples towards the end. And we touched on this actually in our top 10 suggestions video as well. However, for me, I most likely will eventually get into war pets, but it's probably going to be after maybe I, either get to like T4, which I'm getting close to now that I've kind of maxed out my eco tree. Like for me, I like to try and, like my view for me personally is I want to try and get all my buildings maxed. I want to try and get my tech close to maxed. Like there's things I kind of want to do before I get to a point with war pets. However, that is just my view on it. It doesn't mean that others are going to share my view. I'm sure others will probably say, well, you could just work on them at the same time. Sure, I could. But for me, I just don't really feel it as something that's absolutely necessary at the moment. And I'll explain some reasons why as well. However, let's now get into number 2, which is the questionnaire. Here we go. Let's show you guys off the goods. There's some really great stuff here. So let's start off going top down as usual. Right? So we got 38 responses, almost 40. And let's start with the first one. Do you feel that introducing war pets in Season 2 was too early in the game's life? Right? You have pretty much kind of a 3/5 to 2/5 vote, right? 3/5 feel no, it wasn't too early. 2/5 feel it was too early. When we asked, given you have access to war pets, have you engaged, capturing, feeding, leveling, regenerating, fighting, etc. with them at this time? Overwhelmingly, for the people that have participated at the war pets, and for everyone, for you could say the majority, right, said yes, we have actually done something. Now we get to, I think, well, one of the interesting ones. This is just to kind of show you the range of player power for those that participated in this poll, which I want to say thank you so much, because I love being able to show this type of a graph off to people. So it's not just, oh, well, boss, you might have only just had free-to-plays that were doing it, or maybe only 10 to 20 mils or 20 to 30 mil players were participating. No, you could see there's an incredibly healthy range, right? You have free-to-plays, one, you have the bulk of it, which is 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and then up to 40 mil, and then we got a couple 60 to 70s, and then we got 300 mil pluses. So again, this to me is great when you're looking at the type of feedback that you're looking to get, where you have a diversity of power, right? It's not just kind of consolidated on the lower tier, mid-tier, or higher tiers. Now let's get here. When do you feel they should have introduced war pets, right? So some people say season 1. You have the bulk of people saying season 2, because again, that's when it was released. Then we have the next highest, which is not at this time, as the game was fine without them, right? And you could see this is pretty close. I mean, you're 8 points away from basically being the number one in this small pool, because we understand what it is. Next, people said season 3 might have been more appropriate, right? So it just goes to show you, right? You even had, look, 2 people said season 4. One said never. I mean, again, the point is that you're getting mixed reviews. It's not really overwhelming on one side of the spectrum or the other here. And I think that is a telling tale when you have a wide range of responses, and it's nothing that's really clear cut, so to speak. Sure, you do have the majority response, as you usually will in these cases, but it's not as though it's a 50% or 50.1% majority by any means. Then let's get to the next one. When war pets were introduced, was it easy to understand everything you needed to do? And I think this is pretty clear. This is actually really is consistent with a lot of the feedback we were seeing early on once the developers came out with that initial war pet video, right? You can see here the majority of responses are between 1 and 3, where no, we did not have an easy time understanding, or it was difficult to understand. Now, my opinion on this is that it would have been better, I believe, for the developers to come out with a full walkthrough guide, right? Where it shows you from the very beginning of, hey, this is you capturing the pet in-game, not kind of showing clips like they did, right? They showed clips, and that's not to say that's a bad way of doing it. It's just that when you're introducing something complex, which I think most people, if you're looking at this based on the review responses in this small testing pool, and along with the feedback that we saw being given early on in the War Pets channel for those first few weeks, there was clearly a distaste for how complex war pets were. There was just a lot of moving parts within them. It wasn't as simple as, oh, I can go out there and capture it, I level it, I get to buy a skill, and I put the skill on it wherever I want, right? It wasn't that simple, you know? And it's funny because people were talking about how war pets kind of reminded them of Pokemon. Dude, this is not Pokemon. This is like some hybrid, like genetics, you know, we're talking, you know, you gotta, it's like you're trying to create a new dinosaur, so to speak, right? That's what it felt like to me. It felt like the first Jurassic Park where they ended up making why am I forgetting right now, right? The something Rex that I'm forgetting, right? That Owen Grady had to go and fight Chris Pratt, whatnot, right? With the gal, right? To that level of just intensity on. Now, I'm not saying this is rocket science by any means, right? We're not really stretching it that far. But when you're talking about doing an introduction for something, either you're going to come out with something complex, but then you're going to come out with the easiest to understand guide on how to navigate that complexity, or you are going to approach it in a building block type of way, where maybe you come out and say, hey, cool, you guys can capture pets and just level them. And then maybe a month later in the next update, you say, oh, we're going to introduce skills. Cool. And then in the next update, you're going to say, we're going to introduce buying and selling skills on a market, right? You're doing it in stages. And to me, I agree. It just, when I watched that video and then I go to War Pets, it was a little off-putting just because of how complex, once again, it felt. And for a lot of people feeling that it is. Now let's get to the next one. What are the most challenging parts of War Pets? So this, we actually got everyone participated here, and we got some people that added in some others. So we're going to kind of go down the list here. So almost 29% of the votes said too many things to do for a pet. And I think, just like we talked about, right, before getting here, because again, this is my first time looking at this, we're just kind of going top down. So for me, being able to, for what we just talked about on the too many things to do where it's too complex, number one, kind of the first response here with 29% of the vote, you know, kind of plays into that. Then we get to 52.6% where 20 people, and bear in mind, this was a checkbox, right? So people could select multiple if they wanted to. Now, you end up getting some descriptions, instructions are not clear. And we've seen people talk about that, where, for example, if you're regenerating something, it doesn't say, oh, it's going to always be an improvement or an upgrade. Or if you're going to try to replace a skill, right? It doesn't, it wasn't always clear on, hey, is this going to always fill into an empty slot, or is it going to potentially grab another one? Or doing not the regeneration, there's the other thing where you can do the skill porting, right? And there's questions around that. Then we get to the next one, which is 65.8% of people voted for this one. Percentages are too low for drop rates and finding 1-star skills when catching or when trying to capture. Then you get to the next one. Losing skills I did not know I would lose, right? And again, 63.2% of people voted on this. I mean, that to me seems as though that's a really difficult one. That almost to me feels as though that shouldn't even be a thing that could happen in the game. Now you get to 29% people just said the grind, right? And that's kind of more general. 10.5% limit on capture rate. Then we have 26.3% regeneration being random. And then you had, 89. This is the most overwhelming. 89.5% of the people said teaching skills should not prioritize filled slots. That's one of the things I just talked about when we were mentioning in the beginning, keeping things simple, right? And that, to me, again, it's very hard to swallow that because, respectfully, that doesn't make too much sense to me, right? Where you kind of have this random skill assignment that can happen where you could end up putting a great skill on there that you love, and then all of a sudden, if you buy a skill and you want to try and place it on, there's a chance that it could override that skill if you go forward with it. That, to me, is a turnoff, right? That almost makes it... Think about this. That's like taking the amount of time something would take to complete from potentially a week to a month, or a month to a year, right? And that is, again, it's off-putting. That's hard to really justify that as a player. I mean, if you think about how long as the free-to-play it already takes to kind of get to max T5, being able to max a war pet probably almost feels like maxing another T5 thing. It's such a long time in your mind that can be a demotivator. Then we get to knowing what to buy and sell, right? 26.3%. Then we have the next one, right? 63.2%. How damage scales from war pet damage formula. I think giving an example, sometimes that can really help, right? If you said, hey, here's the formula. If you plug in this to this, or you plug in this here, plug in this here, plug in this here, it equals this. And then in their video, if they gave multiple examples, they said, here's how the formula works at a low level, at a mid level, at a maxed war pet. That would have been great to see. And then you have a couple of these additional ones that were thrown in, which is some people said, right, it's way too pay to win. Even for this game, Sanders can't use gems for anything, even though it's supposed to be a universal currency. Again, respectfully, I disagree just on that part of being able to use gems for something like this, especially if you're trying to make it a little bit more free to play, which, if anything, I'm always in favor of. At the start of the season, only low-level pets are available, making me not even bother catching them because you only get trash ones anyways. You can get 3-star talent skills. Only chance is higher level Darkling Iron Doors. When using skill cards, they almost always take away your talent, which is wasteful. The progression table on the war pets is just too large for the average span of a player in the game. Right. Then we get to the next one, which is, hang on, here we go. Just too much stuff. And then some people talking about skill slots and how, they're most likely just not the most ideal when it comes to how the replacement works out on them. Okay, now, the next one. When do you feel it is appropriate to start working on war pets? Now, this was something, so I asked a few people about this when it came to improving the questionnaire. And I thought it was important because, bear in mind, I have not messed around with war pets too much. So when it came to me thinking of questions to ask, even though I had kind of a good direction, I really wanted to make sure that the questions we asked were going to elicit and kind of garner us the best type of responses right across a field. Then here we ask, when do you feel it is appropriate to start working on war pets? Now, most people might in this situation would just think, oh, well, I should just start working on them right away while I do everything else. However, you will notice that this is split. And it's split, right? Now, it's funny because when I asked some people this, some people responded to me with, well, why would you ask that question? as though to them it was just obvious, right? In their mindset, their approach was, well, I will just work on them while I do everything else. And what's funny is that I put this question in here on purpose, just like basically the others, right? Aside from some adjustments. Because to me, you have to look at War Pets beyond it just being a new feature. It is an extension, right? Very similar to when you could say when they came out with equipment or armaments, right, in Rock, or when they came out with, oh gosh, I'm forgetting what they're called now, but it was one of the, it's not artifacts. I can't remember if it was artifacts in Infinity Kingdom, but it's similar to that, where you have certain primary or core things that you work on first, and you have to prioritize, right? Where am I going to work on these? Because bear in mind, right, you get to spend some resources out there to go and hunt pets, and so there's things that you have to look at and say to yourself, well, okay, I'm going to work on this first, this second, this third, this fourth. And War Pets is just one of those things where not everyone is always going to be aligned on feeling that you need to work on these things or that you should be working on these things from day one. And one of the reasons I'll give you, and we talked about this earlier in the video, is that when you get to higher level War Pets, right, it increases chances for just better, first off, not only better captures, but for being able to have better potential stats. Being able to have the possibility of maybe having higher skills, right, or better skills. Just capturing a higher level War Pet, in turn, can garner you a better return in general. And so when you understand that, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is the most ideal thing to do where you're capturing them from level 1, as an example, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but it just may not be the most efficient. And I think when you see the responses here, even though, yes, you could say almost half of the people say you should do it right away, there's also a lot of diversity here. One of the other ones, right, the next biggest one here at almost 16% of the vote said, once I unlock T4. Right? And again, that's something you heard me talk about for myself earlier. I think the next biggest one here is at 8%. After I max T4, I am max T4 or have unlocked T5. Right? Then you have here, after buildings are maxed. Once I unlock T3. You can just see there's different. Once I have 5 marches unlocked. Like, again, people are giving responses. And again, most of these, bear in mind, the majority, if not everyone here, has been doing War Pets more than I have. And so when you're seeing these types of responses, it just shows you that it isn't always going to be a priority in the beginning. And so I love being able to ask questions like this where people can really tell you, right, how they view War Pets, because it is a factor into it. Now let's get to the next one. What do you like about War Pets, right? And then we asked, what do you not like, or kind of what do you feel are opportunities with War Pets? So let's talk about what do you like about War Pets. Nothing, more stats. Interesting twist to the game. I think ways to add spice to the battlefield with slightly new multipliers is interesting. So from that aspect, it's pretty cool. Their appearance is good, but do not see any huge impact. I like the pets themselves. I think they can add good new mechanics or give something extra boost. Someone said, eh. I think they have a decent impact on battles, and it's an extra something to farm. It's another way to play the game. It's like Pokemon, so it's funny, new mechanics to discover. Zzz, we get it. They are cute, opportunity are interesting. Build a perfect pet. They are fun. Addition emotionally. Why doesn't love having a pet or familiar alongside? Who doesn't love having a pet or familiar alongside them in battle? I like that they are a grind and have enough luck and depth to the system that whales can't max everything in the first weeks. It feels like we were very early in what pets will eventually become as we figure out the meta and start adding 2-star and 3-star skills to our pets. I like the depth and complexity of the system. Adds a small amount of additional skill in pairings. I like that you can have more than one. Micro optimizations doesn't have huge effect on fights, but still has a little difference. Then we get adds depth in the game. Nothing they don't feel like they fit the game, or at least the point where we are at. I like the added bonuses they have, the potential to provide to fights. They require some, though with skills, and can be changed around slightly depending on playstyle. Personalization of marches. It's fun to grind. They are fun to use their abilities, capturing nice graphics. All right, so we're not going to read everything, because again, this is available publicly for you all, so you can go through it. Then we get what do you not like, or where are the opportunities about pets? Definitely the skill, placement RNG, drop rates, being able to lose skills when equipping or buying new one. The RNG with skill slots, I've lost a lot of money because of the system, and as a higher spender, it's frustrating. I can only imagine for free-to-play or low spenders what the annoyance is. I mean, look, if it's annoying for people that are spending, yeah, I can only imagine that that's going to be amplified if you're below. a high or heavy spender. Damage is too low, got to make it way higher. Skills, it should let you choose skills or much more rate drop on empty slots. Right now, it looks impossible to learn a skill. My biggest complaint is on skill system. It's not clear at all with the information game gives you, and is currently a waste if you try to build a pet and just lose the skills you already have instead of adding new skills on empty slots. Right, something we've mentioned and others have as well. Despite having about the same damage factor, Ice Lizard does a pitiful 1/10 of the damage of Sapphire Drake. VIPCS is completely unhelpful when I presented details from controlled tests and asked what's going on. War Pets increase the gap between high and low spenders free to play. How do attributes affect skills? How does the 0.5% HP mitigation scale with agility? Is it 0.5% or 10% mitigation at 200 agility? I have no clue, and VIPCS is unwilling or unable to provide details. I know it's possible to get a 2-star talent, but I've only seen literally a single person get it. What's even the point if it's such a low chance? Having another daily chore also saps my motivation to continue with the game, to be honest. And it's funny, it's interesting that they say this, because I somewhat reminisce with that. If I was almost forced to have to do War Pets at this moment, I almost feel that it would kind of compound a level, and I don't want to say of stress, because that's not really the right word to use, but it would compound a level of extra work and effort I'd have to do on my account that I didn't really feel I needed to do at that moment, right? But again, that's just me, right? Everyone's going to have their own view, but I see where this person's coming from at least on that part. I believe that their impact on battle could be improved. They're just in the middle, not quite worthless, not quite worth the time. Too much pay to win compared to the rest of the game. When you release the pet, the chance to drop a skill is too low. Z, they're too complicated. They should have started simpler, maybe even just cosmetic and added layers over time. Something that we mentioned, right? It was way too early in the game. They could have waited a bit, working more on their system. The hype was already here with the S2's map. That's true. Would have even been more if they kept S1 Plus in, which I do feel that I would have loved to seen them to have seen them keep that map variation. They could have kept the pet for later once the hype was gone. Right now, the RNG part with the difficulty to earn new skills is way too hard for free to play and low spender skill system. They do barely any damage and cost much. The War Pet token system, and no way to get them for free besides selling skills. And even then, you don't get much returns. Maybe add an exom way or extra way to get more, such as from War Pet Chest. I wish they had more robust and thorough tutorial on pets, right? That was something that we talked about as well in the game, or just YouTube videos from the CoD official channel. There is so much to learn and so little information given initially. I do not like that spirit and agility skills are available differently from the other attribute-based skills. I don't like how easy it is to mess up the inherent skills feature due to lack of visual clarity on what will happen when you use the inherent skill feature. Capturing pets with decent skills and adding skills is super frustrating and has no logical explanation behind it. There's no cats! We're going to stop there. That was a great one. However, again, we're already almost at 24 minutes right now. We're just passing our 23-minute barrier. And at this point, remember, as another friendly reminder, for those of you that want to be able to review all of the feedback, the data, right, link will be in the description, pinned comment down below. Now, where I will end is that I really loved doing this type of questionnaire. I think we got a lot of great information from the people who took the time out to respond, and I do very much appreciate you all. I think what I might do in the future is add some type of optional thing where if you want to put your name in there, you can. And if you want to remain, well, bear in mind, even if I put your name in, it's not as though people can view individual forms, right? Even on the one that we just showed, you can't sift between the individual forms. You can only look at the summary data. So even if you put your name in there, it doesn't really mean that people are able to select your name and then say, oh, well, let me go read what this person said, right? So I might do that as a way, because I really would love to give people shout outs that take the time to engage in the polling. So something that we'll probably add in next. In addition, I would love to know what you all thought, right? What did you think about this? What did you think about the summary results? And on top of that, do you think that I should add anything to future polls that are kind of more of what we'd consider the universal fields, right? Aside from the topical type questions. And yeah, so that's it. Again, did anything stick out to you? What did you think? Anything shocking, not shocking? Do you think that the poll results are pretty in line with the general community feedback? Let me know anything and everything in the comments down below. That's going to do it for me. As always, until next time, I will catch you later.